Well, it was an interesting week, Orange and Bills fans. But first, let's start with the Orange. As you know, I'm wearing my orange jersey today, but that's in celebration of the Orange's first victory in the ACC. We head down to Raleigh, right in the middle of Tobacco Road, take on a pretty decent North Carolina State team, and come away with an impressive 24-10 victory. It was impressive the way the running game worked. Both Jerome Smith and Prince Tyson Gully with over 100-yard games. And also Terrell Hunt showing his mobility, especially on that touchdown run. But I'd take a couple things away from Syracuse's first two ACC games. Thing is, the running game may be top-notch, but the thing is the passing game has been anything but. Of course, Hunt piled up the yardage against Wagner and Tulane, but you know, those two teams don't exactly strike fear into the hearts of any team. But you see, the way Hunt's passing has been in his first two ACC games, you're thinking, oh boy, the Orange have been pretty one-dimensional. And I don't mean with glasses. Let's just look at it. Against Clemson, none of his completions were to the wide receivers. And against North Carolina State, Cabina caught a couple of passes. But the thing is, they weren't for very big yardage. But it's been mostly the H-backs, the tight ends, or the running backs who've been getting the passes. And let's just say, the yardage the last two games, oh boy, you gotta wonder, they gotta break out of that one-dimensional rut. 'Cause the thing is, they may be able to run the ball, but you know what the ACC's gonna do? The other teams are gonna stack the deck against the running games, put 8 or 9 guys in the box. And that must be a real big box, 'cause they're not gonna have much room to breathe. And you know, this week they play an innovative running team, Georgia Tech, down there in Atlanta, and their unique triple option offense. Not very many teams in Division I run the triple option other than the service academies. Thing is, Georgia Tech's triple option is pretty good, and it's pretty tricky to defend. But you know, this might be the time for Terrell Hunt to show how he can do through the air, because Georgia Tech probably is going to stack the deck against Syracuse in the run. But whatever, it was a great victory, great initiation into the ACC, other than that bomb against Clemson. We're now 3-3, and let's keep it rolling, Orange. And I'll also talk about the other interesting game. Thaddeus Lewis, the guy with the biblical name. It was the starter this past Sunday against the Bengals. And you know what? It looked like he was just as good as E.J. Manuel, if not better at times. This guy knew how to manage the offense, and he knew how to move the ball when needed. But the thing is, even though the offense stepped up to the plate in what was an almost victory, meaning we went down in overtime, but the defense didn't step up. They were as porous as Swiss cheese, especially on those outside screens that the Bengals ran a lot. They throw to the flat, and the guy would take it for 40 or 50 yards. The thing is, Pennies has to get that defense working a little better if the Bills are to be an elite team. But you know, this is the Buffalo Bills. It seems as though they can be in the game, but they always find a way to lose it, especially with bad special teams play. And the special teams weren't as special. But it was a thrilling comeback there in the fourth quarter. The touchdown passes to Chandler and to Goodwin, who showed why he could be lethal when he gets in the open field. But Buffalo, you have to close the deal. Hey, this is not a mortgage application. You have to close the deal, Bills. We're 2-4 and we need to get it going. And with tough games coming up against our big rivals, the Dolphins, and the Saints coming up, we got to be able to stay in there. And of course, we signed Matt Flynn, the Raiders and Seahawks cast off, to be insurance in case Thaddeus can't go. But you know, he was a revelation, and I don't have to swear on a Bible, although I do have to cut down on using colorful language. And while I'm at it, I'd like to talk about something that is me using colorful language at times. This whole thing about Indian groups asking the Washington Redskins to change their name. They're saying, oh, it's offensive and everything, and even ESPN columnists like Christine Brennan and that are saying that this name should be changed. Well, let me ask you guys something. Why don't you say something about Waterloo and the Indians? Why don't you say something about Atlanta and the Braves? Why don't you say something about Florida State, our ACC brethren, and the Seminoles? There's something for you, Rick and Colleen Hemingway, especially because your daughter is going to Florida State. But you know, that whole thing is really silly. They've been the Washington Redskins for about 80 years. They have a great, proud history. And you know what? They had one of the most colorful personalities in John Riggins, who was a favorite of mine when he played and is still a favorite of mine. Get that diesel chumming. Whom, whom, whom. You know, you Indians can take that, I'll put it in your pipe and smoke it. Hey, to me, they'll always be the Washington Redskins, and leave them the hell alone. And I will say congratulations to the Miners Academy Hall of Fame induction class of 2013. And I want to say a big shout out to two members. Rod Verkey, who was a great athlete back in the 60s for Miners Academy and has raised three great sons, Andrew, Matt, and Jason, who have had athletic prowess of their own, especially Matt, being a member of the 1992 Miners basketball team that won the New York State Federation title. A great man and a great family. And also to Chris Dragone, my neighbor, who was one of the best cross-country runners Miners Academy ever had, and who I was proud to call a neighbor, a friend, and a great athlete, and who's doing pretty well living down in Manhattan with his job. Chris, you're always number one with me. Keep up the good work. And I want to give a shout out to three potential ones in the future years for Miners' Hall of Fame. Let's give kudos to Sierra Devine, because she did a lot running cross country and track. And to Brittany Anderson, one of the greatest female athletes Miners has had in recent times. And to a big dude, one who is so great to my niece, Brandon Pasalacqua, who's now tearing it up on the field for Rochester. I don't know whether he's been playing or not because I haven't kept track of the U of R statistics. But Brandon was the valedictorian this past year, and he is a gentleman and a scholar and an athlete. Let's see those three get into the Miners Hall of Fame in future years. And that's all I have time for this week, fans. Let's hope the Orange can beat Georgia Tech, and let's hope Buffalo can beat the Fish. I'm Ken Haas, and that's my thoughts for this week.